Hey, what's up? This is Gary from Raz Rentals. I got a ton to talk about in this video, so sit back, relax, and let's talk about some totally tubular mutants from the past. In 1990, the amazing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie came out, and it blew us all away. It was like a 12-inch layer of icing on top of a 10-foot tall cake, a cake overflowing with sugary Ninja Turtle goodness. It was awesome. It was bodacious. It was radical. It was gnarly. It was all those cool Ninja Turtle sayings. As soon as you reach the credits of Ninja Turtles 1, you're probably thinking what I was thinking. Man, when is Ninja Turtles 2 coming out? And lucky for all of us, we didn't have to wait long because Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, came out in 1991, just 1 year after the first movie. And, in the meantime, everybody was talking in the lunchroom like, man, that first movie was so awesome. I bet number 2 will be even better. And of course, rumors started to circulate, and everybody began to speculate. Will we finally see Krang, the Technodrome, and Bebop and Rocksteady? And no, we didn't see any of that. But we got some other really awesome characters. Super Shredder, and of course, Tokka and Rahzar. In the movie, Tokka and Rahzar were huge. They were vicious. They could throw the Ninja Turtles all over the place with ease. When you saw them, you probably thought two things. These guys look awesome, and when can I get a toy of them? And again, man, you were so lucky because just in the same year, Playmates released toys of these fearsome foes, so you could recreate your favorite scenes from the movie, and so much more. Both of these guys look amazing, and, in my opinion, it's really surprising how movie accurate they actually are. So, before I dive deep into the land of comparison, first, let's talk about who Tokka and Rahzar are, and a little bit about their history. Tokka and Rahzar first appeared in the movie Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, but you probably know that. Rahzar was created by Kevin Eastman and Tokka was created by Stephen Bissette. They were originally designed for the toy line, but Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman decided to use them in the movie when they decided that they wanted to have more mutants. So, the toy sketches were first, and then, the people in the movie based their costume design off of that, and then the Playmates toy is based off of the suits from the movie. Originally, Stephen Bissette designed Tokka as a mutated snapping turtle named Terrorpin, and he was going to be a Playmates action figure, and he was going to come with a companion named Snappy Warhol, and he was going to be in a little tiny can, just kind of like, like a Andy Warhol painting, and we're going to get to Snappy in a little bit, but Terrorpin actually did show up in Mirage comic books as a giant snapping turtle in the sewers. This is Volume 2, Issue 5. Yeah, I think he shows up in Issue 4 first. And he fights Leonardo in the depths of the sewers. And Leonardo cuts his eyeball out. I couldn't find much backstory on Rahzar, so sorry, dude. In the film, the Shredder created Tokka and Rahzar as a way of one-upping the Turtles. He wanted bigger, stronger, and vicious mutants for his own army that he could use to fight the Turtles and, what's he trying to do? Conquer the world? What's his motivation in the movies? Steal a bunch of stuff? Anyways, so, I really liked their design. They're obviously a snapping turtle and a gray wolf, and, they were huge and they were scary looking. I thought they were pretty cool. But let's be honest here, it would have made more sense for Bebop and Rocksteady to be in that movie. I mean, they were in the cartoon, they were in the toy line, they were in coloring books, they were in video games, arcade games. They were all over the place. They were just as integral to the Ninja Turtles, brand as the Ninja Turtles themselves. And so why weren't they in the film? Well, I've read a few things. One is that even though Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird created Bebop and Rocksteady, their personalities were supposedly created by David Wise. And he was the writer for Fred Wolf Films. And Fred Wolf Films is the company that made the original Ninja Turtle cartoon. So some people speculate that Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird would have had to pay licensing fees to use the characters Bebop and Rocksteady in the movie. And then the other thing I read is that Peter Laird just doesn't like Bebop and Rocksteady, and he finds them to be too goofy, so he didn't want them in the film. But neither of these reasons really makes much sense to me. Okay, I'm going to go off on a little tangent now about Bebop and Rocksteady, so by all means, if you just want to get to Tokka and Rahzar, look in the description below. Check out the chapters. It'll take you where you want to go. In my opinion, that all sounds like a bunch of malarkey, baloney, hogwash, and poppycock. Here's the deal. I don't know anything for certain because I haven't read anything 100% certain. But, due to some interviews and some other things I've gathered, I kind of have a few reasons why I don't believe the whole licensing thing. I think that's just a rumor. And in fact, I think that I've actually read in maybe Mirage Comics Volume 4 that Peter Laird said that Fred Wolf never owned Bebop and Rocksteady, that he owned it. But I have to take the time to actually go back and read all the letter columns in Volume 4. But this is some other reasons why I think that the licensing thing is a bunch of nonsense. Number one, there's proof that Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman designed Bebop and Rocksteady for Playmates before they even began to talk to Fred Wolf Films. Fred Wolf and David Wise took the unnamed mutant Warthog and Rhino and just kind of gave them the name Bebop and Rocksteady, their origin, and their personality. So technically, Eastman and Laird would own them, but, David Wise just has a hand in creating the personalities of those two characters. David Wise claimed a lot of things, too, about that old cartoon. He also claimed that he came up with Krang, the alien brain that the turtles would fight, even before he learned of the Utroms. Now that is quite a coincidence. Even here on the back of the VHS tapes, it says, Rocksteady, TM, are trademarks of Mirage Studios, USA, all rights reserved, used with permission. So, no mention of Fred Wolf owning these characters at all. Number 2. Bebop and Rocksteady were on and in everything back in the day. Video games, hockey games, comics, tons of toys. Even after 1991, they kept on showing up all over the place. So are you going to tell me that they didn't want to pay the licensing fee for the movie, but they were still okay with putting them in everything else? And again, just like the comic books and the video games. Let's see here. That's very dark. Again, Bebop and Rocksteady are trademarks of Mirage Studios, USA, based in characters and comic books, created by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. Number 3. Later on, and I'm assuming this probably happened right when the Fred Wolf show was ending, Fred Wolf sued Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman for profits over the past 10 years that the show was on, claiming that he wanted 50% of everything because he claimed that he co-created everything Ninja Turtles down to them being in the sewer and everything like that. And you can kind of read a little bit about it from a Kevin Eastman interview in 1998 with the Comics Journal. And, Kevin Eastman doesn't say much about it due to, the legal agreements and all that kind of stuff of the whole situation. But, it sounds to me like I kind of pretty much take from it that they were able to prove their ownership and come out on top of the whole situation. And I kind of think that, Fred Wolf probably wouldn't have gone back and said, like, oh no, we needed all that money that we haven't been getting for the past 10 years, if he already had ownership and was getting the money. Number 4, Peter Laird used Bebop and Rocksteady in Turtles Forever. And not just any Bebop and Rocksteady design, no, specifically the Fred Wolf design. Even Krang and Shredder from the Fred Wolf cartoon show up in this. And, from what I understand, they didn't have to pay Fred Wolf anything because they owned him. You know what they didn't have in this? The 1987 Turtles theme. Do you know why? Because Fred Wolf owns the rights to that, and 4Kids would have had to pay a licensing fee to him. And finally, number 5 in my reason of why I don't believe the internet licensing rumor that everybody keeps on saying. When Peter Laird sold the Ninja Turtles to Viacom, who was included? Bebop and Rocksteady. And now Bebop and Rocksteady show up everywhere. IDW comic books, tons of toys. In the Nickelodeon cartoon, in the brand new movie that came out, 4 years ago. They're everywhere. And, the reason why they didn't show up for however long that they did when Peter Laird still owned the Ninja Turtles isn't because he would have to pay licensing fees to Fred Wolf. It's because he just didn't want to use them. Take everything I said with a grain of salt. I'm making some assumptions and basing it on certain interviews and whatnot. So, I could be completely wrong, but, if you think I'm wrong about the whole licensing thing, let me know. But I think I made a decent argument about it. So why do I think that they used Tokka and Rahzar in the movie instead of Bebop and Rocksteady? Well, I'll tell you, it's very simple. Tokka and Rahzar were new characters. And, more characters means more toys. And more toys means more money for Playmates and Mirage Studios. They could have used any more characters in this movie and we would have bought it, and they knew that. They could have put mutated worms in this movie, and I would have bought it. You would have bought it. Do you know how I know that? Because they put out a mutated worm, and I bought it. Now, as for Peter Laird not wanting Bebop and Rocksteady in the movie because he thought that they were, like, too silly or goofy, they made Tokka and Rahzar babies in the movie, for goodness sake. Like, that doesn't make any sense. For me, that was, like, the only negative thing about these guys, too. Like, they couldn't just be monstrous minions of the Shredder. They had to make them into goofballs. Master said have fun. Ooh, mama. Like, guys, I'm in first grade now. I'm almost grown up. I don't want my enemies being a bunch of babies. You know, when they did show up in the cartoon eventually, in 1993 during Season 7, Tokka and Rahzar were very different. They were actually smart and intelligent, and apparently at some point in the cartoon, Shredder released mutagen in a zoo, and just random mutants started roaming around. So they show up in the episode Dirk Savage, Mutant Hunter. As you can see, Tokka and Rahzar in the cartoon, they're also, like, the exact same design as Playmates' 1991 toy. So it'll be interesting in the future to see if NECA makes their Toon Tokka and Rahzar, and if Super 7 makes their Tokka and Rahzar. They'll essentially be the same design, just executed a little different. And, you know, it'll be a little interesting. To me, these seem the closest out of a lot of the Toon to cartoon counterpart action figures. Next, Tokka and Rahzar appeared in Turtles Forever, and in this movie, they're just like some random guys who got mutated into Tokka and Rahzar, and they appear more as like Easter eggs, and they're very quickly dealt with. Finally, both Tokka and Rahzar appear in the 2012 show, and they're both completely different. First, Rahzar here, he starts off as a character named Bradford, and he's like a martial arts actor and instructor who's also a bad guy. He gets mutated first and turns into Dog Pound, and then later on he gets mutated a second time and becomes this bony wolf creature here called Rahzar. And as you can see in the film, he's a little creepy looking. He's almost like a werewolf zombie, in my opinion. And Tokka is completely different. He's not even a mutant. He's a giant space turtle. How giant? Well, Godzilla-sized giant. And, you know, he comes to Earth to find, I think, her baby, actually. I think Tokka's a girl. Tokka is a mother, I think, in the new Ninja Turtle cartoon. And it doesn't look anything like Tokka from the movie. And, you know, I kind of think that maybe they used the giant size from Terrorpin and kind of mixed it in with Tokka from the movie to come up with this Tokka in the cartoon. Tokka and Rahzar both appear in two Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle video games. First, they appear in the third Nintendo game, the Manhattan Project. In that game, you fight them separately as bosses, and both of them have very big heads. Like, check out Rahzar's head here. It's huge. And then when you fight Tokka, he carries around a shield, and he can also eat your face. The second game that they appear in is Turtles in Time for the Super Nintendo, and, you know, they're pretty awesome in that game too, but they're a little simple. You fight them at the same time. Tokka and Rahzar only appear in a few comic books, not very much at all. First, there is the adaptation of the movie, which was drawn by Jim Lawson for Archie Comics. They're in that for sure. These ones get a little dicey, I guess. Alright, so you have Turtle Soup here, book 1. And in here you have a story, let's see, at the end of the book, called Turtle Power. And, you know, in this story, the turtles fight Krang, which is unusual for a Mirage comic book. And Krang mutates a dog into a mutant dog, apparently, you know. And that mutant dog kind of looks like Rahzar. So he could potentially be Rahzar. But this turns out to be a, like an imagination playing kind of thing for a little kid at the end. So they never say Rahzar in there, but that could technically be Rahzar. Then Tokka appears in Turtle Soup. But in this comic book, it could be Tokka, or it could just be Snappy. Because In this storyline by, what's his name, Rick McCallum? No, it just says McCallum. I'm pretty sure it's either Rich or Rick McCallum. He does a lot of Mirage comics too. Anyways, in this storyline, Raph gets bit on the finger by this pet snapping turtle. And then that snapping turtle mutates into a giant snapping turtle, and he kills Raph. Or does he? If you never read that, you should check it out. That's book 2 of Turtle Soup. And then finally, the final appearance of Tokka and Rahzar in comic book form. They have just recently shown up in the IDW comic books. In this issue, was this 111? It says, I want the wolf and the snapping turtle. That's them, all right. Plus, they've leaked some images of Tokka and Rahzar meeting Bebop and Rocksteady. And that's that. Alright, so finally, we're all done with all that backstory. And now I can talk about the figures. Finally! And if you're still here, thanks for waiting, and thanks for watching. So, Tokka and Rahzar. They do a really good job of capturing the movie likeness. Alright, that's enough. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Subscribe, like, and all that. No, I'm just kidding. That's not it. I'm going to get into a very deep comparison from how these figures translated from the movie into the Playmates toys. And, you know, in general, they did an amazing job. So, first, let's talk about Tokka. So let's address the mutated elephant in the room. Tokka here obviously has the same body as Slash. Slash came out a year before in 1990, so it wasn't even like, you know, we had time to get sick of them. And they were already giving us a repaint. You know, people nowadays are always talking about how they reuse parts. Well, guess what? Back in the day, they've always been reusing parts. If they want to save some money, they're going to do it. You know, that, like, to me, that's like the biggest negative thing about Tokka is that even though he does a really good job of looking like Tokka in the movie, you know, it would have been awesome to see Playmates make another sculpt of a turtle, you know, because, you know, they were on top of the world back then. They did so much crazy, awesome things. It would have just been cool to see another take. And, you know, obviously there are some differences. First of all, the color scheme is way different, you know. Slash is like, I don't even, like, what, dark aqua green? What would you even call this? And Tokka here, he's more of like a puke green. And, you know, he obviously has a different head. So that's good. You know, I'm glad they didn't just, like, repaint the head, too, to be like, oh, no, this is Tokka, too. He's very different. They changed the shoulder armor and put these spikes here, like Tokka has in the movie. They changed the forearm down here because originally Slash has these, like, elbow pads with the spikes. He's got a hole in the back of his hand so he could have these claws, and he has 3 fingers like a turtle. Tokka here has he has like this rubber elbow pads. He has the wraps around his wrists. He's got 4 fingers and a thumb with sort of like a leather glove hand. So, you know, they did a good job of still trying to make him look like Tokka in the film, even though he's a repaint. But yeah, he looks good. And like I said, we're going to take a look and see how he compares to the NECA Tokka figure. But I just wanted to talk about this. He even has the same belt. And, as you're going to see in the future, the same exact weapons. There's also a Tokka variant with bright paint and a bright shell. And I used to have this, but I got rid of it last year thinking I only wanted a dark one. That was stupid. I need to find myself another one. Tokka here has the usual Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles articulation. First of all, he's got a little cut where his neck is, so you can rotate his head around. He's got a rotation in his shoulders, so that's good. They all have like cuts in their elbows or their forearms, so you can rotate their hands around and get them into different positions. And, you know, he's got ball-jointed pelvis joints here, so you can rotate the legs around and try to get him to stand. And, you know, the paint on this guy looks really nice. It's actually pretty clean. Like, you know, there's some scuffs and stuff, but that's due to wear, you know, normal kind of stuff like that. And the arms here and the heads really make him look like movie Tokka. Speaking of which, here's movie Tokka. Now, recently I put up a video that compared the NECA Tokka and Rahzar to the movie Tokka and Rahzar. You know, try to see how accurate they were. And they were very, very accurate. I found them to be highly satisfactory. They were almost completely perfect. So, you know, this is a pretty good representation of movie Tokka next to the Playmates Tokka, so we can get a good comparison here of how they translated movie Tokka to toy Tokka. Can I say Tokka any more times? So, you know, first off the bat, they made some minor changes to this Slash figure, but man, does he look like Tokka. Like, he has kind of the same build, and he looks fantastic. First of all, the shape of the face is really good. It really captures that like angry glare that Tokka has throughout most of the movie, and like the beak is painted really well. Like you have the lighter color on the bottom, and then you have the dark highlights on top. So that's really good. He even has like the red eyes, kind of like he does in the films. So that's cool. If you count the number of teeth he has on the top and the bottom, he has the same number of teeth. You know, it gets a little dicey here in the middle underneath the beak, but, you know, whatever. Let's see here. Even, like, look at the way his shell matches the shell of this guy. Like, it's very spot on with how it appears in the film. Like, they did a really good job with that. Obviously, the biggest difference here is that he does not wear a belt in the film. And, you know, obviously it would look silly on him because he has all those spikes on his back. But on this guy, I think it's cool. I think it's good, especially since you don't have all those spikes in the back. It works okay. It doesn't. You still know it's Tokka. You know, he's got huge spikes on his shoulders, and the original one has those huge spikes too. And then if you turn him, like if you look at the profile of him, it's like almost exactly what you would want from Tokka. The shape is very, very good, and you have like all these wrinkles in the neck. And I know this began as a Slash figure, but it just worked out that that kind of matches the same look as the movie Tokka. You know, he's got the rubber elbow pads, which is pretty good. Those were new for this figure. You have the wraps around the wrist. That's good. And he does have, you know, in the movie he has 3 fingers and a thumb. This toy has 4 fingers and a thumb, but they are shaped much like Tokka's fingers in the movie. And he even has like these leather gloves on. They're just unpainted. So he does have all that, you know, they covered him pretty well. Obviously, the back is a lot different. I'm sure that they were probably thinking, well, we don't want to give kids a weapon that they can hit their brother or sister with in the head. So, you know, even if they gave Tokka his own, you know, unique sculpt, I'm sure that they would have toned this all down, and you would have had all these spikes and stuff like that. Now, one of the biggest differences is that Tokka does not have a tail, and, you know, this Slash toy has a tail because Slash had a tail. And, yeah, he's just awesome. He looks really good. From the belt down, though, Tokka kind of loses some points here. You know, he still has Slash's legs. They probably could have given him his own special legs, but he's got Slash's legs, so he only has 2 toes, just like an evil turtle would. You know, he's got 4 toes on both sides of his feet, you know. And he's got these spiked knee pads, which are completely missing from that, so he should have the tire pads. But other than that, you know, it's pretty good. I think this guy really looks amazing. Like, you know, for being a toy from 1990 that's supposed to be movie accurate, like, that's pretty great. You know, like, back then you didn't get movie accurate toys. Of course, you know, there's some things here that are a little different, but in general, like, what could you ask for? Like, it was fantastic. And, you know, like, no matter what, like, position you have him in, you know, front, 3/4, or profile, he just screams Tokka. So they did a very good job here of translating from movie to action figure. As I said before, Tokka comes with all the same weapons that Slash came with. Only now they're painted black, and they got different names, so maybe kids won't know the difference. But we all knew the difference. First up, you got the Snappin Scimitar. You have the Sicko Sai. You have the big bad stick. And you have the Chompin chucks. Here's a close-up of Tokka's belt. And, you know, it's the same as Slash's. It's got skull and crossbones on it. It's got ninja stars. It's got buttons and doodads. It's got a little slot there. You can put the Sicko Sai in there. It's got a grenade. Pretty cool. You know, this guy was super awesome, and I bet he made a lot of kids happy back in the day. Now, here's Rahzar. And unlike Tokka, Rahzar got a completely new sculpt, and they did an amazing job with this guy. I mean, look at him. He looks great. And, you know, he's almost movie accurate. His body is very good, is very similar, but, you know, there is some differences in the face. First of all, movie Rahzar, his face appears like flatter. Like more of like a... It doesn't look necessarily like canine. It looks kind of just monsterish, I guess, is how I would describe it. Whereas Playmates Rahzar gives him more of the standard wolf snout. You know, it's long. I would also say, too, that, you know, the eyes of movie Rahzar are very... There's like a certain flair to the Jim Henson Studio stuff that like you don't see in many other places. Like there's something about the facial features that when you look at it, you can kind of see Jim Henson design. I know this was made after Jim Henson was dead, but obviously the people that worked for him probably picked up on some of that, and we're still continuing to do that. And, you know, this is kind of lacking that, especially the eyes. He's got like these bug eyes, these red bug eyes. But, you know, in general, it still looks really good. Like, if you went over your buddy's house, he'd, like, hand you this guy, and he'd be like, hey, yo, check this out, look what I got. And you'd pick it up in your hand, and you'd be like, oh, holy cow, is that Rahzar? There's also a variant of this guy with red facial features, but, again, I got rid of mine last year thinking, I should only keep one of these. I'll keep the one that I like the best. And again, that was stupid. Just like Tokka, Rahzar here has the same usual Ninja Turtle articulation. He has a cut in his neck so you can rotate the head around, but you can't rotate it all the way around because he bumps into his shoulders. He has cuts in his shoulders so you can rotate them, and he has cuts in his elbows so you can rotate his forearms. And his pelvis here has hip joints, ball joints for the hips, so you can move them all around until you can get him into a position where he can stand up. Oh, I just got it out of whack. There we go. We're good again. And, you know, one complaint I have about Rahzar here is that the cut for his shoulders, I think, are way too angled. Because when you, like, try to raise his arms up, they just, like, cover his face. Like, it'd be better if they were stuck out a little bit. So, like, if you're trying to, like, have it look like he's, like, body slamming a turtle, it looks wonky. Like, that's not good. You want these to be sticking out a little bit here. Not like, oh my gosh, help me, don't hurt me. Alright, so now let's see how accurate Playmates Rahzar is next to movie Rahzar. Right off the bat, I gotta say, you know, this guy is pretty accurate. He looks very good. You know, there's only some slight changes here that make him different. Obviously, this is Rahzar through Playmates' lens, so, you know, some things are exaggerated and whatnot, but in general, very, very similar and close to movie Rahzar. You know, I already mentioned the kind of the differences in the face, but the other major difference is that he's got like this blue torn shirt on, and I think if anything, that kind of gives Rahzar more of a werewolf kind of appearance than a mutated wolf, because you know in the movie he doesn't wear clothes before he becomes this. He just mutates from a wolf into this. So that's the big difference. But you know, he does have the chest plate made out of the car grill. On the Playmates figure, it's actually kept in with a peg, and you can remove it. And underneath you can see like Rahzar's muscular body. You know, this Rahzar must be working out quite a lot, because look at his six-pack. You know, I'm sure that some women out there probably had posters of Rahzar on their walls. Come on, get back in there. Like I said, there's a peg here. You just gotta find it, and you can get it in. Oh, come on. All right, for some reason that took me a while to get that back in there, but you know, it's in there. So he's got his shoulder pads. They're made out of rubber, or they look like the rubber in the film. You know, he's got the plates, the circle plates on his shoulder pads, and those look cool. They're a different shape than that, but they still look very good. Arms look very nice. However, the next big difference between this Playmates Rahzar and the movie Rahzar is that he has elbow pads on. Ooh, come on, man. He has elbow pads with spikes. And in the movie, he's got no protection for his elbows whatsoever. Like, you know, he can't go rollerblading or anything like that, or else he might accidentally scuff his elbows. And instead of having, like, the wraps around his wrists, like in the movie, he has more of, like, a metal wristband or something like that. And there's chains hanging off of him. That's the only place where you actually see chains on this Playmates figure is there. Obviously, this one, he's got chains all over him, connecting his chest plate to the back and the back together and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, you weren't going to have that. If anything, if they did, they would have sculpted it like on the actual body of him to make it appear like he's wearing chains. But, you know, they didn't go that route. All right, next, he does have all these little pieces of tire armor, and they do have the spikes on them, or the screws or nails, whatever they are in the film. Only on the original one, they're kind of like... On the Playmates one, they're kind of square. You know, they're just kind of like, you know, just regular pads on top of them. Where these, the ones in the movies actually look like more natural, like they kind of sawed them off of a tire and wrapped them around his leg. These ones are just kind of stuck on there. But, you know, they're good. And, you know, make sure if you're trying to buy this guy, you buy him with these pads. You know, make sure that they are all there. You want, because sometimes you might not notice them, but he has all these pieces, and you know, you'll be kicking yourself if you don't have them right off the bat. Next, we'll talk about his hands. Now, this one's a little different because he has 4 fingers and a thumb, and in the movie, Rahzar has 3 fingers and a thumb. So, different, but it also kind of, like I said, makes him look a little more humanoid and more of like a werewolf, I guess. And, well, in my opinion. So his loincloth looks pretty good. Obviously, it's bright green. It's right in your face. But, you know, it still represents the suit in the movie. So that's good. And then his knee pads, he again has those, like, rubber knee pads. And you have, like, the little circle discs on the side. Just like the original design has. If you look at the back of them... Slow. All right. On the back here, obviously this is a lot different. You don't have all these chains. You do have the metal little circles, but obviously they're not these like... They look like welded pieces of metal. I don't know exactly what these are. Here it's just those like, you know, metal discs from the front. Loincloth, that's good. And, you know, in general, I was pleasantly surprised at how movie accurate this guy was. You know, I think they did an amazing job. Back to the werewolf thing, they gave Playmates Rahzar like human feet that you know, look like they're turning into a wolf, so he looks more like a werewolf. You know, in the movie he just has these 3 big toes, which, you know, I mean, come on, that's not even accurate to a wolf, right? They have 4, plus you'd have the little thumb or whatever hidden. So, you know, I like, that's cool and all, but, you know, I kind of like how he has these, like, human feet. It makes him look more like a werewolf. I like both. I got no complaints. Rahzar comes with 3 different weapons. First, he has his spider hook. Let's see if I can focus a little better on this guy. And, you know, this is 2 parts put together, plus a string. You have the spider on top, and you have the handle. So if you're trying to get him complete, you got to get all 3. Next, you have the reinforced rib protector. Now, I don't understand this. Is this like... I thought this was like a club or something like that, like a bone club. Like, what's a rib protector? That sounds like a defense mechanism. And, you know, this thing, too, you got to make sure that you get this jaw when you buy this guy. I've had Rahzar loose for years, and I didn't realize that the, you know, this thing I had didn't have the jawbone until last year. So, look at him. He thinks it's really funny. He's laughing at me and my stupidity. And then here, you have the gravestone shield. And you know, this is cool. It's got some nice detail on it. I like it says R.I.P., turtles, all that kind of stuff. And of course, Rahzar did have a shield in the movie, but it's obviously a whole lot different. And you know, again, with the werewolf thing, gravestone, bones, Spiderhook. Is Rahzar Halloween themed? Like, this is all like Halloween stuff. Was that the intention? Was he supposed to be a werewolf at first, and then they decided to, like, you know, repackage him and sell him in the movie as a wolf? What happened? I need to know. Rahzar does not hold his weapons well either. Like, look. Let's try to put the shield in there. Very difficult. The grips don't work. Spiderhook. Well, that fits okay. And then the rib protector. Okay, that's fine. You just gotta... Man, these guys were awesome way back when, and they're awesome now. Like, we didn't realize how good we really had it when we were kids. I mean, they did such a good job of representing these characters from the film. You know, maybe not everything's perfect, but it was great, and it's good enough. One last thing before I go. In 2016, we finally got to see Bebop and Rocksteady on the big screen. Now, I didn't see it, actually. I didn't see that movie, so I can't really say much about the movie, but I can talk about these action figures. And all I can say is, you know, Tokka and Rahzar are like 30 years old, and these new Bebop and Rocksteady figures are 4 years old. And man, the quality back then was so much nicer and just so much more exciting looking. Like, you know, for being Playmates movie figures, they just seem like very generic and like uninspiring and kind of bland. Like, you look at the old toys, they look like they're practically jumping off of your shelf. And these new ones are just, I don't know. They kind of reached the point now where they're kind of like dollar bin toys. You know, forget, I'm not picking you up. You either. Hey, my son told me that your son wouldn't stop picking on him. So, thanks for watching. And as I wait for the Rat King and Vernon 2-pack to come out, I'm going to work on more Retro Turtle stuff, get caught up with some Thundercats Ultimates, and do a series of videos showing which Ghostbusters movie line is the best. I've got a ton of new things on the horizon, so subscribe so you can see what's next. And, you know, if you like my video, go back and check out the old past ones. I got a ton of them up there, so have a good one, and talk to you later.